Like, dude, I mean, you're pretty limited with like what you're gonna do. It's like, hey, are we gonna do this verse
Yeah,
quietly
yeah.
or loudly? you know? You know, if the band were a football team, the drums would be the quarterback. So much of your success comes from who is in that room. Yeah, my name is Ving, and I'm from California. But I currently live in Houston, Texas. And I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you.
This is really exciting. You all got a great setup here. You obviously decorated very well. So.
Yeah, we made sure everything was unplugged, so.
That's great. Okay, so like I said, I'm from California. And, you know, I think leading worship was just something that, or not just worship, not just leading worship, but being involved in worship ministry is just always something that I was called to do, if I really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my dad is a Lutheran pastor in the LCMS. And so, you know, your whole life is not just going to church, but also being a part of the behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking everything like service preparation, setting up, going to visit people in convalescent homes, going to give communion to people who are shut-ins. So like get the whole experience. And like I think as a kid, you don't really realize like kind of what's happening. My dad's just like, we're just hanging out, father and son.
Like,
gotta
that's
make
normal life for you.
Yeah.
It's not normal for everyone else. Yeah.
Exactly. And those are all like formative things. And so my dad's a pastor and my mom is a professional pianist. And I think just the avenue of those things is kind of what brought me to where I am today. So, I mean, you know, I have memories early on of being, I don't know how old I was, maybe like, 5, 6, 7, probably even earlier. I mean, since I was born, obviously, waking up to like Bach, Chopin, Mozart.
Yeah.
And like, that was just like normal, you know, every day. My mom's just practicing piano in the morning, which was awesome now I look back on it.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, I just think back to all those things. And so basically, you know, growing up all those years, the first musical ensemble that I was a part of that wasn't a choir, because I guess when I was in 3rd grade or 9 years old, like choir didn't count. Because like
everyone's in choir.
Everyone
gets a trophy.
Yeah. Even like the jocks were in choir and like they had no business being there. But I think like it's just something everyone did. So you just signed up. But I joined handbells in the 5th grade. And handbells is like, if you don't know what it is, you're holding 2 bells that are pitched to a specific note. So the bells are lined up like a keyboard. So you got your white keys and your black keys, and so you're just holding basically like an F sharp and a D if you're playing in the key of D, and you just hold those 2 notes.
You're just that one chord.
Yeah, whenever those
almost
notes.
A chord.
Yeah, you know, and then you need to switch to a G. You put the F sharp down and you grab a G, and then you're ringing. So that was handbells, 5th grade, and I remember joining handbells, and I think that was my life changed. I'm like, this is awesome. It's like it was so much fun playing handbells, just playing like hymns and stuff. So I think that's where it like really started, because man, like something just clicked, you know? There's like little moments that I can like trace back. Another like example I have looking back is like being from California, we lived really close to Disneyland. And so my family would take me to Disneyland, and there was a band at Pizza Planet that was playing. And I remember the name. They were like, hey, we're Lunchbox, come and rock with us. I'm like, that's awesome. I don't know. I was probably like 6 years old. I'm like, Lunchbox? But I remember being at Disneyland, and there's like so much stuff going on, right? You like people are dressed up, there are rides, balloons, you know, it's crazy. But like, I just wanted to sit there and watch this band. I wanted to watch Lunchbox.
Pizza Planet, yeah.
I know, but my parents demanded that we go ride rides. So, but yeah, I like look back on like these like certain key memories on my life, and I can like trace back through the weave of time.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just, those little moments kind of were the things that were pushing me closer and closer to worship ministry. And then, of course, then more concrete things started to happen. I think in the 6th grade, shout out to my 8th grade teacher at the time. Her name was Judy King.
Mm.
She was a classically trained pianist, but she loved contemporary worship.
Oh,
So she
nice.
cobbled a bunch of middle schoolers together, and we made a praise band. We met after school every Wednesday, and man, that's when it all kind of started happening, you know.
Mm.
So like middle school praise band, high school just like kept it going and played in the jazz ensemble, the marching bands, and I was just like fully addicted to music.
Mm.
You know, any way I could play music, anytime I could get my hands on an instrument or find some buddies who wanted to jam, you know, in my friend's garage. You know, we just like play for hours and hours. And so you can trace that all the way through college and whatnot. And I mean, I'm fast forwarding a lot.
Yeah. No, I think typically, I mean, just from what I've seen, talking to people that grow up in the church that happen to play an instrument, eventually you're just helping out and doing stuff, and you're like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah. There's like no definitive like start.
And I was just kind of assuming that, you know, being a pastor's kid and you can play an instrument, you're around the church, they would just throw you up on stage.
That's exactly
at
what
some
happened.
point. But it kind of sounds like that they didn't really need to. Like you kind of positioned yourself and your life experiences to where you kind of fit that role.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's true. I mean, you're like, I was just a kid. They didn't need to be a part of it. And they were so nice. I mean, like, and they weren't like top musicians or anything. They were just people, a part of the church who played instruments, and they would get together. And I was just there because my dad was there, and you know, they needed to watch me. So yeah, they just pick up the guitar, and it's just they showed me a couple chords on the guitar, and then we had a guitar at home and just figured it out.
Mm.
But yeah, it's, you know, it's just a really great environment, and it's kind of like you just got to be around, you know?
Yeah. And
sometimes that's enough to get started. You don't even need to be skilled at anything. You know, if you really enjoy something and something really captivates you, like, and I don't necessarily know that I knew exactly if I had a definition of purpose. I just know that I liked watching live music and I liked listening to music, and I know that it moved me a certain way. I didn't know that I would necessarily want to do something about it in the future, but I just like gravitated towards it, and having no musical abilities or skill, I was just surrounded in that environment. So like, yeah. And yeah, it was great. It was great. So
I guess if you could say how long, or like, do you remember your first experience leading worship? Is there like I know you said there's profound moments throughout kind of all that history, but was there a moment where you kind of realized that this could be something, you know, you could do to make a living, or like that you would like you're super passionate about it? I mean, because I don't think any of us really thought, oh, like I want to grow up and I want to be a music person in a church. Like I don't think anybody grows up thinking that. But
yeah.
I guess, did you have any, I guess, kind of memories of a time when, like, I just remember for me, I was playing in bands, writing secular music, and I remember playing a show, and it was sold out, and it was so much fun, and I remember being up there going like, this does not compare to leading worship on a Sunday morning, and like that's when I knew, like, I didn't want to do that band stuff anymore, that I wanted to be a church musician, because that it's just so much more fulfilling. I guess a moment like that where you kind of like, where it clicked. I know you said it clicked, but like just a specific moment, I guess, if any come to mind.
You know, I don't know if there was a specific moment, but a series of different moments
That just built.
So
Yeah.
So I'll just touch on a couple. I mean, so going all the way back to the earliest memory was when I was in middle school praise band. We only knew how to play like 3 songs, and so God bless our chapel services during those times, because we'd play the same songs every chapel every week. I forget what song it was, but we'd play the same song every time, and by like the 5th chapel, the whole school knew it, and so we're just clunking along in our band, probably playing in all the keys at once and playing every tempo. But the whole school was singing the song loudly.
Mm.
And that really spoke to me. And in that moment, like, you have the ability to create something, in this case, music, that compels people to worship.
Mm.
And even as a 12-year-old, I think that really stuck with me. Um, but I would say the rest of it was just kind of a feeling of great, deep sense of fulfillment. Like, you get to play, and you get repeated instances of people responding, and you see how powerful that is, and so over time, it's like, this is the kind of artistry that I want to be a part of. Playing regular gigs, they're nice. It's fun. It's a good time. Whether it's playing at a cover band, a bar band, whatever. It's all fun, but this specifically, I've always just been gravitated towards playing music in the church, just because I know I feel like a deep sense of responsibility with that music. It's not just about creating something beautiful, but creating something beautiful with the effect of pointing to a greater purpose. That's what really intrigues me, and kind of what keeps me really motivated to create, to arrange, compose. So, I'd say probably repeated events of that, just kind of reinforcing that whole thing.
So tell us more, or tell us a little bit about where you work now, and what you do there, how long you've been there, and anything else from your job now, I guess you can describe as it pertains to worship.
I'm currently at St. Mark, Houston, right off I-10. The pastor is Pastor Matt Popovitz, and we just put on regular services, and I love it so much. Yeah, we got a team of blended between professionals and volunteers, and we do pretty much all the songs that is usually seen in contemporary music, but we really try to strive towards keeping the hymns and the old traditions and the songs that are timeless, and we really try to keep those as a part of our service. So I put a lot of effort in finding or arranging just like the classic Lutheran bangers. Yeah, just
without adding a chorus.
Without adding a chorus.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not opposed to the adding the chorus, but
I just feel like at one point everybody was,
you know why though? You know what I
remaking the hymns
realized
and
about
adding
that?
the chorus. Yeah.
Like, hymns are just 4 stanzas, all the same.
They're all verses, yeah.
They're all verses. So, like, dude, I mean, you're pretty limited with like what you're gonna do. It's like, hey, are we gonna do this verse quietly?
Yeah.
Or loudly? You know?
Yeah, that's very true.
Dude, so I mean, the chorus they're like a necessary part of it. So I'm not opposed, there's some good ones. I think we did the Tomlin Amazing Grace the other day. Dude, still slaps. And you know what? Lately, at St. Mark, I've been, I shouldn't say we, but I've been like sneaking in like the oldies. Because
early, like late 90s, early 2000s oldies? Are we talking about like,
sorry, I'm like
Renaissance oldies, or like what?
Like Gregorian chant? Yeah. We've been going into like old English. No, like yeah. Sorry, I'm realizing how vague that was. Like, we're going back early. No, we're going like,
I know. It's like it could be late 90s, could be 80s, maybe. I don't know.
90s in the 1800s, maybe. Yeah. No, like late 90s, early 2000s. Man, sorry.
Yeah, I just feel like the songs I can think of that I grew up with playing in church when I started playing in youth group, like those songs were so simple. When I look back on them and play through them, I'm like, man, these are so simple. And there was something like,
they absolutely were
more elegant than music coming out today. They were just simple.
I mean, there's a huge difference, and I want to get into that, but I wanted to. But actually, never mind. Yes, it was. I like how you said elegant
Mm.
because I feel like there was more emphasis behind the poetry of the words across the board. And of course, I'm just saying that in a general sense because I'm sure we can all think about songs that where that's not necessarily true. I'm not going to
Yeah.
call anything out specifically.
Yeah, we all know.
But there was a striving for having beauty in words. And I remember talking to another musician, and I asked him. This is actually a professor of mine, and I asked him, we sing songs that are like from the 1700s. I'm like, what songs are being written now that they'll sing 300, 400
Mhm.
years from now? And his answer, he speculated that none of these songs are gonna last. I'm like,
Mm.
what? I mean, that's a bold
Yeah,
assumption.
that's pretty
But
bold.
he
But
said
I mean, that's
because, I mean, yeah,
I could see it.
I could see it too, because the reason is because these songs that are so old, like Amazing Grace, the prime example, is like the poetry behind those words. It's written in such a way that it can resonate generationally. And so that's
Yeah.
why I love going back to those older songs and keeping the words but playing them in a way that's palatable for
Mm.
like a modern time, Cuz while the words are great, you still need to have music that connects. The
Yeah.
sonic elements of it have to be relevant as well.
Mm.
Because I mean, I think we've all been in a organ-led service, and I'm not saying organ-led services are less reverent or anything, but it definitely doesn't connect with a 13-year-old, 16-year-old, 20-year-old. It's not
Yeah,
something that
a younger teenager listening, to K-Love or
no.
like modern contemporary Christian radio stations is not gonna gravitate towards
Yeah.
organ-led hymns on a Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's some holdouts.
Oh yeah, no, I've met a lot of young people that enjoy hymns, and it's what I grew up with, and I will always enjoy them.
Yeah, but I don't think it has to be like an or statement,
Yeah,
I think we could, and like that's what I'm saying. Like you can keep the beautiful poetry of the timeless songs, and then, eventually, but you can have different instrumentation. And you know what? I
Mm.
just, and I don't know why this isn't more obvious, but like the song "Be Thou My Vision,"
Yeah.
the tune is from an instrumental tune named Slain, which I believe is based off of a place in Ireland called Slane Hill.
Hmm.
And the tune is just do 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 do.
Yeah.
That's just an independent melody that they then paired with the written text of "Be Thou My Vision," poem meets song. So it's like this is nothing new. They've already been doing this, I can imagine some dude in the 1700s being like, "Man, these words from this Gregorian chant so good, but dude, we don't have enough
They're
baritones in the
chanting,
room."
Yeah. No, I kind of see that too. I'm the music. It almost seemed like the words. I do feel like most of the time the words are in the driver's seat in worship music. But yeah, it's the older, especially when you look at the older hymns, the classic hymns in early '90s, late '90s, early 2000s worship. It felt like the words were in the driver's seat and the music was secondary.
Yeah.
And it kind of almost feels like nowadays, the music and like the instruments and everything else kind of takes the driver's seat.
Mhm.
And I do feel like that sometimes, but yeah, that's a great question of, what is going to last? What can we create that's going to last, like Amazing Grace? And are today's songwriters in the church, are they writing songs that are going to be sung in 300 years? Like, yeah, I'm going to go home tonight and listen to some of them and try to picture that, because I do think there's probably a few, but
Yeah, for sure.
but yeah, no, I think I like the direction that worship music is headed, because it's just like professional musicians are getting in on it, and it's like the level of musicianship and the level of just everything in worship music now is just getting better and better and better, and it's something that has lacked for so long that I love to see.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but yeah, so more about your role at St. Mark's. So do you facilitate the rehearsals? Do you, like day in and day out? Like, what's your what do you have your hands on as far as like the Sunday services go?
Yeah. I like to think that anything that happens musically or sonically, other than like speaking mics and audio that plays from videos, is what we need to always have a really high quality grip on. So when it comes to like day to day, it's song selection, and then and service design. So in terms of flow, um, staffing, making sure you got the right people in the right places to pull off the right songs, and then of course arranging and making sure all the music, all the arrangements and lyrics are all set. So that's the main things that I'm in charge of. So everything that you would basically hear,
Hmm.
that's related to music. Um, and I like to have a philosophy of like of like a top down philosophy,
Hmm.
and just having the
Can you unpack that a little bit? Top down
top
philosophy,
down philosophy. Yeah.
and then looking at the whole picture or like
hmm
service
You know,
planning or
I've had the great opportunity of playing in all types of churches, big, small, rich, poor, different states. So I've got to see it all, and I've always been a keen observer because I've always just been fascinated by production.
Hmm.
And so I've been just kind of teasing out what's good here, and just kind of making a grab bag, collecting it. And it's kind of culminated in that top down philosophy where if you can set everything up organizationally, like team wise, it'll bleed down into a great performance. So like a great performance doesn't just start on the stage with the musicians.
Hmm.
It starts from like the planning side. Do you have tight arrangements that are written out where there's just no question about how many bars is this instrumental? How many beats is this? Where are the hits? Where are the holds? You have MP3s. Like a small thing is you want to have MP3s that are really solid. Like you ever been at a church and they send you the music and the MP3s of Amazing Grace, but like an obscure version,
Yeah,
and then it's in a different key.
like an acoustic Tomlin version that was never released.
Yeah, it's like, and then you show up and you're like, oh yeah, we're doing this, and you're like, but what?
Yeah.
And
Even
so
even as someone who plans that stuff, I still like once in a while I'll find.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
when you go to a new church and you got to figure out the system, what they were doing, and you're kind of, it's almost like every month if you're doing a song that you haven't done before, you find you look in there and there's like in each key there's a different like version, and you're
yeah,
like, I got to clean this up.
yeah.
Um,
But it's
yeah.
top down, right? So you as a worship, as the music director, you can't get mad at the musicians you have if they're responsible of teasing out what the arrangement should sound like. So you
Hmm.
should never leave things up for the imagination if you're the music director. If you're a hired gun, you play the vision of whoever is the director. That's your job. So as the music director, I want to give them the vision.
Hmm.
Here's the arrangements. Here's how we're going to play it. If we're playing a certain song, it's based off of this version of this song, and we're making changes, I'm going to make sure everyone's aware of it. It all just starts the top down. And so the top down is it starts with the planning with the pastors, starts with working with the other tech side of the team and making sure that everything's going to line up screens wise, lighting wise. And if you can get all those little things at the top right, when it bleeds down and trickles down to your greater team, the people who are not in charge of planning, who kind of just execute, the people who are hired guns, who are just, they just come in the morning of or whatever. If you can get all those things right, then suddenly you can have a unified vision. But it's
Hmm.
kind of got to all start right there, because so much of the experience that I got is just, or so many of the things that I currently like live by have just been me being frustrated, showing up to a gig, being like, "What? Like, what is going on here?" Or
Yeah.
I remember in college, when we were like in college, we went to a great. I mean, I went to a place with a great ecosystem of worship leaders, but it's everyone's still kind of figuring things out. And so I would get asked to play for this service on campus, and this or that, and it'd just be like chaos, for better or for worse, because everyone's figuring it out, and
Yeah.
even I was figuring it out, but it's like it was formulative enough to go like, okay, now I'm gonna avoid that type of situation.
Hmm.
Yeah. So like a big example is like, or a very specific example is if you're using like chord charts, which I know many people do, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes there's just a debate going in from a chorus into verse 2, like how many beats is that? Such like a simple thing. But even if you play from memory, even if you learn the song through and through, there's still multiple songs on a Sunday. Sometimes you might
Hmm.
not know. So like having a definitive answer, having it written
Yeah.
out clears up so many issues. And then again, no one that is on your team is left questioning what should I be doing here, because it's
Hmm.
so spelled out and to the point. I mean, obviously, you got to have some autonomy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not all robots, but yeah. So that's what I like to do at St. Mark. I mean, all the day-to-day planning, design, staffing, planning for future services, working with the pastors, working with the tech team, just making sure. Simply put, 52 weeks out of the year, this high quality music every one of those Sundays, so that um, every time you go to St. Mark, it's a place where you can worship. It's a place where you can sing freely, and experience great art,
Hmm.
great God honoring art.
Yeah, I like that. I like that top down theory because it's kind of true when you speak on if you're talking about church culture, right? Leadership drives that, and like if the leadership at the top is if several different people have different visions, it kind of trickles down as like, well, what are we supposed to be doing? Like, I know the goal is to bring people to Christ, but like, so kind of like, if the top is not there, and that trickles down, yeah, I could see that. So it's interesting how like that top down theory could apply to a lot of stuff
Yeah, I mean,
within church work.
it's a church, but it's still an organization of people, and there's still a hierarchy. I am very blessed to work for a really great pastor. He's got a very clear vision
Hmm.
of what he wants Sunday services to look like. But he's also very trusting. So I know that I've made my fair share of bad calls in terms of planning and whatnot. And, whenever something doesn't work out, he's very understanding, very forgiving. He'll give his 2 cents about what didn't work, what we should avoid for next time. But he always lets us explore. He always lets
Hmm.
us think creatively. But at the same time, the vision of what the service should look like is very clear.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And I really appreciate that. It's a really good environment to work in, I think.
Hmm.
And I hope to model that in my own leadership, just thinking that, you want to surround yourself with really talented people. And the hope is that you can just give an idea of what you would like to see.
Hmm.
And then you let that creative person then run and hopefully do great things.
Yeah. No, I think I don't want to say taking chances because that makes it sound like a gamble. Like we're not gambling. We're talking about church here.
You mean casting lots?
Yeah.
That makes it
I don't
better.
want to say casting lots, but like, yeah, having the freedom to, I like to kind of say it like this, like having the freedom to fail.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the only way I learn.
Yeah.
I fail a lot. I'm always learning. That's what I tell people.
Yeah.
I'm always learning because I'm always getting stuff wrong. But I think there's a beauty in that, and especially worship music, because each church is different.
Yeah.
And in your church context, if you had a pastor that was
Like a
much more
like a
controlling and
perfectionist micromanager.
yeah,
Yeah.
that would throw off, I feel like, your whole
Oh gosh.
everything. And so having
That just wouldn't be a good environment to work in.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean anywhere. But yeah, there needs to be some, and we work our hardest to create consistency and excellence. And consistency mainly because it's, 52 weeks, right? You want the service today to be as good as the service that's happening tomorrow, and that service should be similarly it's the same in terms of quality.
Mm. With 52 Sundays in a year, and your goal for consistency, with different volunteer teams on the music side and on the tech side. How do you kind of balance that of trying to remain consistent, with different people with different skill levels? Like, how do you keep that, I guess, balanced
For sure. That
week in, week out?
it is a super hard challenge, and the answer that we operate with is you want to have competent owners in key positions.
Mm.
So it's okay that everyone's not on the same skill level in terms of like technical ability and whatnot. But there are some roles that are non-negotiable. Where if you don't have a key person in this position, it doesn't matter what you do to dress it up, it's gonna be bad. So obviously the speaker, whoever's speaking's gotta have some level of speaking ability. There's hundreds of people got their eyeballs on you, and you gotta get their attention. In the musician, and like specifically in a band setting, you can't compromise on a drummer. And at St. Mark, like I said, we have a blended band, but there are a few things that we'll never compromise on. And we will never compromise on a drummer. And we'll seldom compromise on an electric guitar. And the reason why those two instruments, we operate with that philosophy, is the drums are the most important part in the mix. I always call the drums the quarterback. If the band were a football team, the drums would be the quarterback. The lead singer would be the running back, probably.
Oh, I was going to say the lead or the worship leader up front would be like the safety.
Defense? No, I'm talking about...
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking like as far as like driving in importance, like if the singer messes up some words, the band's still going. If the singer, I guess to a vocalist maybe.
Okay,
maybe would be more.
No, I'm talking about what about the worship leader, the person in front, the person running that moment.
I'd say running back.
I was so surprised because you said safety.
That's not what you're expecting.
I was thinking total offense. You're like, safety.
It's not my goal to surprise people when I talk, but for some reason,
sorry, just really caught me off guard. I was like, really? Okay, wait. If we're strictly thinking offensive analogies, running back, the guitarist would be the receiver. The bassist would be the center. And
I feel like you're favoring electric guitar players with this analogy, but it's okay. Well,
yeah. Because I am an electric guitar player. Yeah, we only want to have good electric players because I'm an electric player. No. So the drummer is the quarterback, and that's because the drummer sets so many precedents in the songs for every musician on stage. Obviously tempo, but dynamics, groove, subdivisions. I mean, I guess that's on a groove, but they just set so much. So like, you can't ever compromise on that. And then the other one is electric guitar player, and I put electric guitar player not to like put one instrument over the other. I mean, I guess I am, but I put electric guitar player because it's the flashiest instrument, and it is also the instrument that people can tease out after the drums. Like for people who don't play music, they see a bass guitar, they have no idea what the function of a bass guitar is, because it's just not a common thing unless you maybe have spent a little bit of time really investigating music. But if you're just a regular listener, you probably don't know the function of a bass guitar. I don't know. I'm basing that on nothing.
Yeah, and it's just lower frequencies. Doesn't stand out as much unless they're running like a treble pedal or something.
Yeah, and
something
then
cool,
for like a keyboardist, I just think mix-wise, it's usually pretty subdued. So like from an audio perspective, the keys don't really pop out too much, and keys are pretty forgiving. If you were to just slap on a synth, like a keys patch with a pad and reverb, you can get away with just playing like quarter notes, and it would still do the job. But a guitar usually has lead lines, and to get a certain tone out of the guitar requires you to manipulate the strings a certain way. And so you can tell the difference between someone who is still learning a little bit versus someone who's been playing a while. The guitar just sounds different.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to comprehend. So I think about those things.
Mm.
So back to the original question, like if we can have the drums filled and the lead guitar filled, everything falls into place a little bit easier. Next would be the lead vocalist and whoever the worship leader is, obviously. But that's kind of separate in the sense that they have a completely different set of responsibilities that are not even musically related. So in terms of the instrumentation, and then maybe if we're like thinking about it more, whoever's on the soundboard, they arguably have one of the most important jobs because nothing gets into the sanctuary unless it goes through the soundboard. And then whoever is pressing next on the slides, that's huge. Yeah. And then if those key positions are filled with competent and excellent people, then usually everything else will be fine. So that's how we do it. And we have a very blended team. We have people of all ages. We have adults with no training, adults with a lot of training, some high school students who are just kind of shadowing, or some high school students who have been there for a while and they're just like studs, just nailing their jobs. So but as long as we get those key positions, and I might be missing a couple, things will be good. Yeah, and it's difficult. It's difficult to get 52 weeks of consistency, because everyone has their own life. There's a rotating band. Even for the hired guns, you can't really rely on them all the time because they travel and stuff. And it's so. But it's a fun challenge, and it's a challenge that's kind of like really worthwhile. It's really worthwhile when you see people really connect, and when you see people really lower their guard down. Because I think the hardest thing to do in the morning is like be vulnerable, or maybe vulnerable is not the right word, but like be like open to the idea of like participating in worship. It's kind of a completely different headspace to be in, and like you just woke up. It's like towards the end of your weekend, you're already thinking about what's, the work week coming up. It's like getting into a reverent mind is like it's like difficult to like get,
I mean, for me, it's so much easier for me to pray and talk to God at night.
At night.
In the morning, I wake up and I'm like,
yeah,
I'm not a morning person. And so, that's
is he nocturnal? Is that?
I mean, I could be. It's funny. I heard someone told me one time, whenever I hear, 52 Sundays in a year, or I hear it sounds so like such a not a small number, but it makes it like from week in and week out. Sundays, depending on what your role, can be a huge deal. And someone said one time it's the equivalent to putting on like a theater show every week. And it's like, I remember hearing that and I was like, well, it's not the same exactly, because you know what you're expecting. But like that's kind of true. Like it is a lot of work, and it can be a lot of pressure, but like you said, if you're going top down, if you have your people in the right place, then it shouldn't be pressure. It just should be fun. And I think one thing that I try to do is I try to make serving as fun as possible. And it sounds light-hearted, but like what goes into that is I could be doing more prep. And when I'm doing this prep, when I'm executing these things that aren't related on a Sunday morning during the week, I know that I'm putting extra time into this because I'm making it easier for someone to serve. And I feel like that's it's good because you want people to have fun serving, but at the same time, I feel like sometimes I'm doing a disservice by not challenging them. So have you seen kind of like what's your take on, working with people where they're at? Because I know you said you have a very blended team, professionals and amateurs. So like, as far as working with people, do you guys do one-on-one stuff? Do you do lessons? Do you do anything, I guess, outside of Sunday morning and weekly rehearsal with your volunteers?
We do not do any personal or one-on-one stuff at St. Mark. Plainly speaking, because we are not staffed to do that effectively.
Hmm.
We only just set expectations of what things should be like, and we just ask that people do their best to rise up to those expectations. And a part of me, when I began taking a more leadership role to this all, because the majority of my life, I was always just been asked, a hired gun, and before that, just someone who played guitar that was asked to play. So, but as I began taking more responsibilities in leadership, you like realize that people get a deep sense of fulfillment to contributing to their church, and like in a greater sense, like into just a bigger vision. And something I learned playing at a church, specifically Salem and Tomball, they have such a great volunteer staff out there. And shout out to the Salem and Tomball worship team, because they have some people there, and they run like they run a full camera team, switcher, multiple cameramen, and white balancing. Like they have like a whole team of volunteers that just execute a fairly high video program for what they have. It's pretty darn good. And what really stuck out was they really strove to do a good job. It gave them a real sense of purpose. I was talking to the woman who ran slides, and she said that all she does is click one arrow, but she, like, to her, like that was like the most important thing. And she was so meticulous about timing the lyrics of every slide, so that as the slide was approaching the end, she made sure it was at the same place at every time. And she's laser focused onto what the pastor is saying so that she can click the next slide. And just like the level of excellence that she brought to something as simple as running Pro Presenter, it really stuck out to me. And so that's something that I like to remind myself with being a leader on a team, is that the people that you ask to come, they really want to do a good job. And I think the last thing is, people don't want to, obviously we don't want to be not having fun, but we don't want to be a part of something that is kind of just kind of not really thought through, if that's the easiest way to say it. But I think on the whole, people want to do a good job, and they want to exercise to the best of their abilities. And so we strive to do that, and we try to set the expectation in such a way the best we can. And that's the hope. And the hope is that you'd reach a level of quality that is high enough to keep consistent over 52 weeks. So with the idea of 52 weeks, like, we're not trying to hit home runs. We're just trying to get base hits. Another apt sports metaphor.
I like it.
We're just trying to do base hits, and the idea is just hopefully driving a lot of runs. But, you know, and then of course, once you can,
you've lost me in the analogy now.
Yeah,
now I'm thinking, like, is a home run baptism? I'm like trying to figure out what.
Yeah, what is a home run?
Like going to heaven? Because then that's game over.
No, because, well, we loved, I mean, to go back to the idea of my pastor letting us think really creatively, he lets us be like pretty ambitious with like music choices. So like one Sunday we're thinking like, hey, what if we did all songs from the 90s, 1990s, and we just play music from that for that service. During Christmas, like, we had themed Sundays. So like we did like instrumentation arrangements from the 80s. We had a Western country. I don't know why I said Western. That's movies. We had the country music, you know, so like things like that. We can just pull different levers and express music in different ways. And, you know, you want to get to a level of consistency so that people trust you, that it's going to be like this regularly. So that when you do kind of change a little bit, do something a little bit different, people are there to trust you. And it's a beautiful thing. It works both ways, because when you really face plant, your members aren't going like, what is this? I'm out of here.
What do we pay you for?
Yeah. They'll just go like, and you can always tell. You look out in the crowd and you can see how engaged they are. Some people are just like, I'm really uncomfortable with this. And, it's great because you see the same people every week. So I
Yeah.
kind of use the same people as litmus tests. And there's a man named John Brown.
Hmm.
He's a great guy. I always like take a look at him. It's like, is John into this?
Does he sit like third row back?
He's pretty
So
far
I feel
back
like everybody's
there,
got
but
a John
he always
Brown.
wears a he sits the same place. He's got he always wears like an old fashioned suit jacket.
Hmm.
He's an older gentleman.
Does he ever give you guys feedback or criticism or?
He doesn't give us criticism, but when it's good, he'll come up and be like, "That was nice work, young man," and give me the firmest handshake.
Oof.
And when that happens, I'm like,
Yeah, that's when you know.
that was a home run. Yeah.
Mm.
So, but then there's sometimes weeks where like he doesn't say anything, so I'm like, probably missed the ball from getting John Brown. Might have gotten the other guy on the other side, or the other woman over there. So, yeah, but it creates that trust in your congregation. When you have that trust, that consistency over 52 weeks, it's like then it allows you. And for me, I really like that because it's really fun to be able to think creatively. It just kind of allows you to be a little more inspired. Because when you are working for consistency, and I really do believe that you want to have high quality at a consistent level, you kind of need to throw out. You can't be too creative, because I think there's an inverse relationship with creativity and quality sometimes, right? Because you're just trying to think out of the box. You're trying to come up with different ideas, and chances are some of those ideas are pretty bad, or they're just not going to be amazing. So like, to reach a level of consistency, you need to sacrifice some creativity and run the playbook that works. But then once you get that going, then you can start thinking about creative for like select services or a season of services. Like we just got finished with a sermon series called The Iceberg. I'm probably saying that wrong. But I was exploring like, at the top of an iceberg over the water, there's the little sliver, but underneath there's just so much more. So we were exploring the different facets of being a human and what we believe ought to be on the top and how it actually translates to the bottom. For example, like one time we talked about our need to be needed. So the people out there who feel like I'm worthless if I can't provide for people. What are the follies that come from that, and what does Christ say to you, and how does Christ address those kind of people? So all I have to say is that during like this series of sermons, we got to play just pop tunes during the service that related to it. So the need to be needed, we played
Want You to Want Me. What's the name of that one?
Wow, I can't remember. It's been a couple months. But another example was Our Need to Be Right. We played Tom Petty's I Won't Back Down. And it's like little things like that, it's little sparks where it's like, something as simple as playing a cover of a Tom Petty tune. But when you put it in the context of a church service right before the sermon and it cues up, it gets exciting. And I feel like we have earned that trust where we can do something like that.
Yeah.
Where, someone who's been at St. Mark for 40, 50 plus years, they're not going like, this isn't my church. I'm
Tom Petty in my sanctuary.
Yeah. How dare you? We've built that trust now, and it's really great.
Yeah, that's cool. The that trust aspect is huge. It's so much easier to do ministry from my perspective, just if you have built relationships with people, and kind of like you're talking about, like that journey of being consistent and earning people's trust, like gives you that freedom to really, do anything you want would be a little extreme, but just there's no limit to the creativity that you guys can implement in a service. And I think that's really cool. And it's something that you don't see in the Lutheran church a lot. And it's just refreshing to see a church doing that. That's really cool. This kind of leads me to my next question. As worship leaders, worship directors, and music people that work at churches, there are. It's funny, you get asked this question of, what do you do here, or like what do you do during the week? And it's funny because people only see you on Sunday.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's your job, right? And obviously and that reminded me of the tip of the iceberg. It was like
Yeah.
the Sunday morning for the worship person is the tip of the iceberg, and then underneath is this vast, limitless in your job, anything else as defined by the pastor. Yeah, the catch-all.
Yeah.
And so that kind of got me thinking of like just things that, going into things you saw or kind of that shaped your experiences of what you thought worship leaders or worship musicians did or do, and what you actually do now. Like, how different are they? And then also the second question, is there anything that you've done while working at St. Mark's or that you never envisioned doing as a worship leader or worship director at a church?
That's a good question. I think there is a lot of there's for sure questions like what exactly do you do? I was actually asked that like yesterday. No, 2 days ago.
Yeah.
By a parent. I just a parent of someone at the congregation. Like, what are you doing during the week? I was like, well, not to get into all of it, but I think the thing that surprised me the most was how much you got to deal with personnel. And I say that specifically because that's really tough for me. You're managing people, managing relationships is such a huge part of this job.
Yeah.
Whether it's someone who's hired or whether or not it's a volunteer that comes in, like so much of your success comes from who is in that room. And if a relationship's not working out, or if someone is not thriving in the worship community, that's something that you really got to address, because it just becomes so poisonous so quickly on a worship team.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this is like the plight of every worship team in the entire world, is the drama.
Yeah.
That could come up for different reasons. I was just talking to a friend the other day, and she was talking about how like this girl got this many songs and this girl gets to lead this many Sundays. And it's so silly because, you're not there to show off, and you're not there to like be a star, but it so happens. And I'm not going to pretend that I am immune to this. So I didn't realize the extent of personnel management that would come into it. Like, you got to make sure your team is set up, because if your team isn't set up properly, or if there's things awry, it's just not going to be a sustainable. Your consistency and quality are going to go down because your sustainability, all your energy is just going towards like making sure people are working well together, are not fighting, and
it really takes away from
it takes away from just making good music.
Yeah.
And it manifests in really negative ways. Like, if you have an idea of how a section of a song could be better, you may not say something, or you may not be receptive to whoever's saying it based on how you are with that person.
Yeah.
So there's so much personnel management, and I'm not saying that our team is perfect, but it's just something that we always got to be watching out. And I didn't realize how much time I'd have to put into managing personnel. Yeah. As someone who, and I think it's just an inexperienced thing, because I was always just the guy who showed up.
Yeah.
And I'm the type of person to not really rub elbows with anyone. I'll show up and I'll do my thing. If I'm not running the show, I'm really not too invested in like the grander thing. Just tell me what I need to do.
Yeah.
I'll get it done. But then moving on, it's like, wow, there's like, you have to constantly be thinking about the people who you're involved with.
Yeah. It's like the best aspect of church is the people. And it's also the worst aspect of the church. Yeah, and it's difficult because you got a lot of competing personalities especially when it comes to musicians. It's like,
oh, dude, we're the worst.
But yeah, no, I agree that having issues like that in a team, it's draining.
It is.
It's draining for everyone on the team. It's draining for you as a leader.
And it's so sad because when it's healthy and good, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You have this community of like-minded individuals, and you're all working together to create something beautiful. So when it's good, it's like so much fun, and it's a great example of what heaven
Mm.
and what Christian life should ideally look like. And so it is really sad when it's not working, because when it's not working, you just realize what you're missing and what it could be.
Yeah.
And you're just like bummed. So, and of course, I don't think it's never gonna go away. You're always gonna be working towards it. And then, but hopefully just over time, you just can get to the point where you got things pretty good. So yeah, just constantly working with people and figuring out what their needs are. That's a huge thing. Figuring out what they what they don't like, you know, being mindful of even like a certain type of song. You know, if you got a worship leader coming in and you know what he or she's capable of, you know, don't make it difficult for them. So keeping it good, keeping it fun. That's a good litmus test, I think.
Yeah, it's like on a scale from 1 to 10,
How much fun are you having?
how much fun does your team have? And
10 being
it'd be
what,
funny
like
to send that
Disneyland?
out to your team and like
You
just
get,
see the response.
you just get back a bunch of zero. I hate this.
If I could put negative, I would.
I only do this because I hate
well, no, it's
you.
like I think it's something that a lot of times you can get lost in the administration side of it and forget that you're dealing with people.
Oh yeah.
And it's so easy. Like if you got an electric guitar player if you get a drummer that plays twice a month at your church, and you know you see him twice a month, and maybe 4 times if you see him on the rehearsals, and they're like, where is the room for building trust and relationship and
Dude.
anything else with him if you're only seeing him really 2 to 3 times a month, and that's it?
Yeah, for sure.
And then you're asking yourself, well, why doesn't he want to get more involved?
Yeah.
So you gotta build a relationship with that guy, man.
Yeah. That's so true.
But there's also something cool about that, having that creative atmosphere on a Sunday morning. I feel like the fun, creative atmosphere that you guys have is, I feel like relational building is like in that already. Like when people are having fun and they trust you, it's like that is in and of itself building relationship, I guess, in a different way. But
Yeah. That would be awesome. I believe, you know, to have a closer relationship. You know, I never really thought about that, but these are people that you see like really consistently, and it's like you see them 3-4 times a month. What are they doing for the rest of the 27 days or 26 days? You know, it's a difficult problem, I think, because you're already so busy.
yeah,
But you definitely got to make it a priority. I think like it's really good to have like the leaders on your team to set them up to do that as well, you know? And there's like real power with having like a little like powwow after rehearsal or after like a church service or something.
Yeah, like I've heard people call it like like a hang sesh.
Whoa.
Our good mentor John Jordaning would say that was a good hang.
That was a good hang.
Like,
I like that.
after like rehearsals or services, you just hang out and chat.
Yeah.
And
There's a lot.
He just say, hey, it was a good hang. And I'm like,
oh,
it was. Yeah.
It was a good hang.
Yeah.
You know, we use Planning Center. I'm sure a lot of people do, but we use it, and it's so easy to get lost in the matrix. It's really funny saying that, but you know the PCO Matrix, dude. You just look at a whole month,
a couple times a day,
and people are quite literally just names on a chalkboard, and then you lose sight of everything so quickly because they're just names and it's like positions and names, and you're just like just trying to fill it up in a way that makes sense, but then like you just lose sight of like people's like individual humanity, like this girl, she, like we have a high schooler, she's in volleyball, she's not free on this day, or this person, he's like really solid playing these kind of songs, but on this style of music or this style of song he struggles. You constantly have to be like reminding yourself, like, it's not just a position with the person there. You gotta like always take into account of like the
Yeah.
human behind the thing that you're scheduling. It's so easy to lose sight of that,
Yeah.
especially on a month view.
And
You
it's
know?
also hard when someone declines and you see that red X next to their name.
Yeah.
When you see them again in person, it's hard to like not see that red X. And you're like,
Really?
to not see them as the person that declined, but
Oh,
there's a
really?
human behind that.
There's a human behind that X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a lot of great stuff. I kind of wanted to end with this question, and you probably kind of answered it just with everything that you said. Like, just moving forward, what are you most excited about? Um, in music ministry, it could be at large or it could be at St. Mark's. Like, what gets you most excited, or like, what are you most excited to see, or just like, you know,
I spent a lot of my time educating musicians, so private lessons or leading a praise band class for the school. And I'm really excited to see where these young musicians are going. And I'm saying that as a 28-year-old. That's really weird for me to say. But when I was their age, I was listening to all of the songs that we would consider old contemporary, like the stuff that was coming out in the 80s and 90s. And that music really formed me in terms of like church music. And like you said earlier, the level of musicianship has gone through the roof. Like there are pro musicians leading the front charge of the contemporary Christian music. You know, it's kind of like that's really cool. And now all these other kids will be listening to that. So it's just a cycle of quality. It's just gonna keep getting better. You know, and I think CCM is still very much so like in its I wouldn't say infancy, but still like in its like development. And it's just gonna get so much better. So I get really, really excited. I have a couple of private students, and they get so good so fast, and they're learning the things that it took me months to learn just so quickly. And it's really going to be cool to see how they take the styles that we are listening to today and transform it into something that's going to resonate well with them in the future. So I'm really stoked about that. But just in general, I'm really passionate about just hearing music return to, I shouldn't say return, but explore more ideas of creating meaningful poetry. And I think someone who's really on top of that is Andrew Peterson, Kip Fox. Like these are two guys that I think about who create music that is very intentional about having a poetic beauty to it. And I think those are the songs that really excite me and really make me excited to think about what is going to be made so beautiful that it'll last for generations to come.
Yeah, what will be the amazing grace for,
Is it In Christ Alone?
Yeah, no, I feel like In Christ Alone is there.
You think it's up there? Because
I feel like the average person, if you say like, hey, when do you think In Christ Alone was written? I argue some of them might say before 1950.
I'm thinking so.
So I mean, is that
I'm one of those people. I was very shocked to see when it was composed. And I was like, dang. Yeah, that's a song that we always do at St. Mark. We like a radio station, you know. The song is just so beautiful, and the words are just, they just convey the story and the gospel so well that like I just want to sing it. I look forward to singing it. The melody is so beautiful. Another one that we've been playing a lot is How Great Thou Art. So like it's just when you sing those words, the imagery, the meaning, the themes of it all, it just hits a certain way that it goes deeper. I don't know. So I'm excited for more songs like that to be made. That's what I like.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching another episode of the Worship Unplugged podcast. Do us a favor, and if you can, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. It would really mean a lot to us. We'll see you on the next one.